Hi everyone, I'm here today with Charlie Mussett, an event and safety consultant. Thank you so much for joining me to play 20 questions. Charlie, how are you today?
I'm good. No, happy to be here.
I'll launch into the first question because it'll help set the
Okay.
scene for us. Where are you in the world and why?
I'm in my attic office in Newcastle because this is where I live and we're all working from home now.
And you're involved in the sports and major event industry. What is it that you love about that? And what was your first role in that world?
It's the delivering of the experience. For over 20 years, I've looked after the finish of the Great North Run, and you'd have to be made of stone not to be moved by the sight of 45,000 pairs of feet hitting that finish line and what it means to each and every person. My first kind of big event was the Cutty Sark Tall Ships Race, which I put on in Newcastle in 1993, and I think I just hit 22 when I started working on that, fresh out of uni. But my first events were at university. I did a history degree. There were no event management degrees back then, but I was the social sec for my rugby club, so I organised dinners and tours and balls and things, and I just looked for that as a career, not as an event manager, because I didn't think you could be an event manager. I thought you had to be in PR and marketing, and that was part of it. So that's what I started doing.
You have formal qualifications in event safety management, diploma level 5. What was the most important thing you learnt on that program?
I think I went to do that. I went to the University of Derby and did their event safety management diploma. And I've been working in event safety for quite a while. My first ever job had been working in event safety. When we did the Tall Ships Race, we had a draft of the Purple Guide from the government then, and we used that. So, literally every event I've worked on, I've seen event safety as akin to event production and event operation. There were two things really. I wanted to formalize my knowledge and my experience, but I also wanted to test it and have that peer review. And learning with others is fantastic for that.
Well, as an industry professional who does have that extensive health and safety knowledge, what's one thing that you wish all event managers knew more about or paid more attention to?
The reality of doing it on the ground. It's one thing to sit in an office and say we want it like this, but if you're planning something and you want your stand builders or you want your electricians or your stage design to do it, you have to involve them.
As well as the industry roles, you also work as a visiting lecturer. What is it about teaching that you enjoy? Why do you do it?
I was helped from the start by a fantastic guy called Dave Copeland, who'd been the head of the Garden Festival at Gateshead, and he ran the first company I worked for, NRN, did the Tall Ships Race. Dave sadly died last year, but he was just brilliant. He was my mentor. So he was probably about my age now when I first met him, and he showed me so much from so many points of view, and it just made me think this is what we do. We help others. We give them their first bit of footing. But what goes around comes around, and there are people that I mentored, over the last 10, 20 years who are now my clients.
That's brilliant. What advice would you give to someone wanting to either join the event industry or move forward in the event industry in this environment in 2021?
Yeah, because our normal advice would be get as much experience as you can, network as much as you can, and you can't get out there. You can't do that. But you can, but it's different. When the pandemic hit and we had nowhere to go to work, the events industry kind of moved to LinkedIn. It was where we all hung out on LinkedIn. It's what we did, and it became much more open, and people are happy to talk, and they're still happy to talk. So use that network, ask people questions. When you're working with somebody on their event site or in their exhibition hall, it's far easier to have that impact. You can show the value that you're adding, and you can't do that in the same way. But join conversations. Don't be scared to have a view because you're a student or a new starter. Don't be scared to join the conversation. Don't be scared to say, well, you might not be doing it like this, but have you thought of doing it like that? The worst that anyone can say to you is, no, I don't want to talk, or I disagree with your view.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It has been a tough past year for our industry. So who in your life has been your rock or a support group, the people who keep you going?
It's been a few things. I mean, home is incredibly important. I'm lucky to have a wife and son here, and a couple of cats. One of whom comes to visit me on a fairly regular basis. I'm quite amazed she hasn't made an appearance so far. And then I found different things. So there are people that I've met through LinkedIn who've actually helped me find work. They've supported me on things. There's people that I've supported, and it is a two-way street. Don't just take, give back. And I think we all need support. We need people to help us, but equally, we benefit a lot from helping other people. So finding the time to do that in whatever way you can, whether it's a one-to-one or you're helping a group, however it might be, that can actually help ground you and help give you something to focus on at a time when so much seems so so fluid.
We've all become quite obsessed with how we work at home. People are, building sheds and log cabins and creating spaces in the corner of their kitchen. Can you tell me a little bit about your current home working space?
Well, the very first week when I was still working for Great Run Company, I started from the kitchen. Thought, this is great. I've got a view of the back garden. There's a loo underneath the stairs, and I'm close to the kettle. And I realised about day two, the rest of the family wanted the kitchen. I was too close to the kettle and the biscuits. So moved up to the attic and moved things out of this room into what was my wife's workroom next door, and because I needed some sort of empty space behind me, and she was happy to do that. And I've been up here, so I've got a small desk with a pop-up table next to me, and this laptop is balanced on a box, and I've got my big screen here on a proper stand. And we kind of get by. And one of our best investments was a roll of magic whiteboard, which sits all over the wall.
That sounds right. That sounds great. And is your desk? Are you a neat person, or is it paper everywhere person?
Very neat. I'm just moving in front of some things here. But no, I like visual stimuli. So I've got different bits of whiteboard on the wall. I've got a calendar up there. I've got some bits and pieces, but I do cull it on a regular basis as well. If there are too many post-it notes in front of me, I get rid of them. But that's how I work. It's how I've always worked, and I'll have different pads and piles. But it works for me. Great,
excellent. Who's been a valuable role model in your life?
I think, as well as I mentioned, a first boss who was really important. But whilst I haven't been on courses, every year, they remain kind of almost like little lighthouse and anchor points to me. I think, right, people like Roger Barrett from Star Events, and going to, meeting him, do work with him very early on, and then keep in touch with him, and going to the emergency planning college and be taught by him. Eddie Grant from Derby University, who ran the event safety management diploma, and as director at Sympatech, and has now moved up to Cumbria. They're people that establish a relationship. You might not talk to them every now and until you really need to, but they're there, they're helpful, and they act as as these kind of lighthouse beacons for good sense, good advice, and best practice in the industry.
Mm-hmm. How do you keep yourself so positive and motivated?
Well, I think we've all got to be honest and fair with ourselves and say that we're not all positive and motivated all the time, and that's okay. But if we don't find something to aim at, find some light on the horizon, then we're going to struggle. So it's a case of like being realistic about what you're going to do in any one day. And what I've looked at all the way through, and especially since going freelance, is if I do something positive each day, move something on a bit, some upward trajectory, doesn't matter how shallow the angle of that upward line might be on the graph, but if it's going up and forward, and that's good.
What is the favorite part of your day?
It does depend. It was going out for a cup of tea on my own. I do the school run and then get a cup of tea, sit on the bench in the garden, or if it was really raining, just open the back doors and just like a cup of tea, sticks music in my ears, and a quick catch up on some social media, and then upstairs to work. With the schools being shut and a 9-year-old in the house, that's all changed. So I think the again shows how difficult this whole year has been for everybody. So you've got the complexities of all that, and you just take it on. So I haven't really got a shape to a day at the moment, so it depends. But it's Friday, so switching the laptop off later on and cracking open a beer is probably going to be that.
What is the most important lesson that life has taught you?
That it's a very small world, and don't burn bridges, and just perhaps being a history student helps me see things in a kind of cyclical term, but things do repeat, things do come back round, and the tangent and the path that you're on now is not necessarily who you are. There's other places to go. You can look at where you are now not necessarily as where you've ended up, but as just one step towards where you might be, and keep a pretty flexible view on that, because as we've found in the last 12 months, stuff gets chucked at you that you weren't necessarily expecting.
So what words or phrases do you most commonly overuse?
I don't know. I'm doing my best not to speak in overly corporate speak, and not to say things I don't understand. There is a word that I won't use that I hate, and that's pivot. That is
Oh,
my
yeah,
that's my least favorite word of 2020.
yeah.
But there are some that I probably do use. I just picked up recently something else that people really hate, people talking about adding value to stuff, and I quite like that. So, maybe I just need to find out which room I'm in before I start talking, and go with the flow.
Okay. Who would you invite to your dream dinner party?
My dream dinner party. People who can cook better than I can, and people who bring a good bottle of wine. And I'm quite happy to talk to anyone at any level, really. One of the things I find about working events, you've got to, you're going to talk to CEOs, you're going to talk to stakeholders, you're going to talk to the security guards on your site who might be the most important people for you in a really bad week when you're trying to control things. So as long as someone's got something to say and they're pretty open and they're pretty genuine, I'm more than willing to give anybody a time. So we might need quite a big table for that dinner party, but that's as precise as I'm going to be, I'm afraid.
Oh, thank you. What would be your dream event to work on or venue to work for?
I've had this thing of sometimes being unsure about whether you ever want to work on your dream event. I'm a Newcastle United fan, and I worked on some football events quite a while back. And lots of people, from all the clubs you work with are great. I did kind of think maybe you shouldn't get too close to that thing that you like, and you should be able to keep it separately. I think, like a lot of people, I'd quite like to be the person standing at the side of the stage, at the pyramid stage, bringing acts on and off. That doesn't look too bad a gig.
All right. Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Tom Cruise.
What's been your guilty pleasure during lockdown?
Peanut butter and Marmite oatcakes, 11 o'clock nearly every day.
Tell us something about yourself that would surprise people or that they find unexpected.
I'm 51.
What's a trait or character quality that you most admire in others?
Honesty. Yeah, you just get to where you need to be faster. And I think getting from A to B is a really good thing to be able to do. And
our final question, what are you most looking forward to when life returns to normal post-COVID, or at least semi-normal?
I'm looking forward to being able to take forward some of the changes that I made in my life, but hopefully not to have things like the financial uncertainty and the career uncertainty. So you can take this kind of easing off a bit and perhaps find that kind of balance that we all want. And I think there will be some benefits that come out of this. There's obviously crikey, the news at the moment, the daily deaths, the impacts on people's lives, it's hideous. But if we slow down a bit, if we value what we've got a bit more, and try and retain that, and try and be ourselves a bit more as we come out of this, and maybe there'll be some good. I'd have put up with the old, though, I'll be honest. I'm not advocating this as a good thing. Yeah, well, let's hope that normal comes back sooner rather than later. But well, thank you so much for playing 20 questions with me today. It's just nice to find out a bit more about the person behind the role. Yeah, no, thanks. It's been fun. All right. Thank you. Take care. See you soon. Thanks. Will do. Bye-bye. Bye.